welcome to another episode of Valley Midnight. I am your host, Nick. Today's story is going to be one to play on a classic. I'm sure many here in the Valley know about it. It is the Lachuza. The Lachuza, for those who don't know, is a tale or a myth or a legend, as you would like to say, about a witch who turns herself into an owl. Of course, this witch can turn herself into many things, but her preferred form is usually an owl. So, without further ado, I like to tell a little story from my family about such a tale. And I'll see you after the video. Owl of Doom. It was late one night when my mother received a phone call. It was from my father, who was just returning from a field trip taking some students to San Antonio to visit the Alamo. My mother had just left him earlier that morning, taking the car back home just in case she needed it that day. Now it was time to head out and pick up my father from work. My brother and I were playing pool that night, and my sister had just recently fallen asleep. My mother never did like going out alone at night, and would usually take all three of us with her. But with my sister asleep, my brother or I had to stay behind. Being the oldest, I was the one picked, not minding at all since my anime on Showtime was just about to start. My mother and brother left. It was a quiet night, almost no traffic. Only an occasional car here and there as they headed down Old Business 83 in Sedona. Not much to say about the drive except for an old owl, it would see in almost every stop sign. But it couldn't be the same owl. It's not possible. For it to travel alongside a lone car in the middle of the night had to be coincidence, right? The owl was large and white. Its face was flat with eyes glowing red when the headlights glared at it. It was silent as it flew across the night sky, as if stalking its prey. My mother and brother did soon realize this owl was following them. Unsure the reason behind this creature's intent, the owl continued to follow them, stopping at every stop sign and stoplight, giving hooting sounds as it waited for the car to move. My mother kept driving, looking back with the rearview mirror from time to time. The owl was still there, gliding with little effort, not too far behind, even going as far as to fly further ahead at times, almost as if it knew where they were going. My mother was now coming up to another stoplight, and the owl landed near a street light, waiting and watching intently. The car stopped. No one around. The owl now slowly leaned forward, stretching its wings out. My mother and brother began to watch the owl as it was now screeching and flapping its wings wildly. Their hearts were racing, unsure what to think of this blood-shivering cry as it flailed around. The light turned green. My mother pushed the gas to try and get away from the owl, but a truck came out of the darkness at full speed, heading towards the car. My mother stepped on the brakes immediately, narrowly missing the oncoming vehicle. The driver of the truck continued on, swerving as he drove down the road. My mother looked at my brother to make sure he was okay. They looked around to see if there was anyone else. Only the quiet sound of crickets could be heard. They looked towards the street light where the owl stood, but it was no longer there. Only a few feathers now descending from the air. Hello, and welcome back. I hope you really did enjoy that story, the little tale on the Lachuza. I'm sure my brother and mother weren't expecting a bird to follow them all the way from here in Westlaco all the way to Donna. But you never know. Creepy things do tend to happen with unexplained meanings. But hey, maybe in the next story, we will probably hear another legend, another famous one. One that I'm sure many people down here have heard many times by their parents. And I hope you enjoy that story as much as you enjoyed this one. But until then, this is Valley Midnight. Grab your drink, put your legs up.